Today I'll be making samboosik with meat. So you start off with a bit of onion. So we want to brown the onion. So I turned it on, put a bit of vegetable oil in there. Any oil that you choose you can use. And I've got 2 onions, so the more onion there is the better. So I've got 2 onions here, 2 medium-sized onions. And I'll cook it off until it browns. Now that I've browned the onion, I've added a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of the 7 spice, the Middle Eastern 7 spice. And now that's ready now to add my mince. So you can use lamb mince, beef mince, entirely up to you what you use. I am using roughly 500 grams worth, so I normally crumb it in. So I use, you can use frozen mince. I know a lot of people store mince in the freezer. The more you separate it, the better. Just washing my hands, so make sure you're continuously washing your hands. So I've added the mince. You do want more onion than the mince. If it's not, it's still okay, but cook off the mince and see if you do need to pull out the mix and add more onion to it. So now this seems fine. So I'll just cook off the meat and keep mixing it, keep smashing it down. Make sure you just keep separating the mince, and then we'll go on to the next step. Once your mix has been cooked off, with hardly no actual, not hardly, but no raw bits, I normally move the fat to the side. This will evaporate in the end, so once you're more cooking it off, I've got a very big handful of pine nuts. You don't need to use pine nuts, you can use any nut you want, or you can leave it out. It's not a must to have this in, but I normally add it in because I don't want to move the mix. I do want to brown it. I add the pine nuts at this stage to actually brown it up in the oil itself, so it will actually cook it off. Once it's cooked, I'll then start stirring. As you can see, it's actually been cooked off. It's got a bit of browning on the pine nut. And when you mix it all together, you can see that the meat is fully cooked off. You can at this stage never try raw mince. Make sure it's fully cooked off before you try it. I do add to my mix pomegranate molasses, not a whole heap, but I try and coat like the top of it, roughly 2 tablespoons worth. I just cook it off for a further 2 minutes. Then it's ready to set aside and use either today, right now that the dough's had an hour's rest. So I just grab a portion of the mix, and this is what it is. It's at its time to rest. You don't want to overwork it. So what I've done is I've lightly floured my bench top, clean bench top, no jewelry on. I've then lightly, I'll just add a little bit on top as well. I've lightly dusted flour, just plain flour, onto my rolling pin so it doesn't really stick. and then you start rolling to your desired thickness. I wouldn't do it too thick, otherwise the dough becomes the main piece of this the meat samboosik. You need to get it as thin as possible, but not too thin. When you're satisfied with it, which I am, get a cutter or use a cup. I'd cut up my circles, so using whatever desired shape you want. This is the prepared meat filling. Using a teaspoon, I put a little amount in the center, and then I press it. Now, to do this, I am not a professional, as I've said in previous videos. So what I do is I've just taught myself how to do this. A lot of people do it an easier way with just forking the outside. I have pressed the outside and I grab and press, grab and press, grab and press, grab and press. So you're folding it over and you're grabbing it and just pressing it. But it's like as if you're doing like a circle motion. Now I'm not checking what I'm doing, and then I get to the very end and I twist it and I just press it. Okay, that's the crunchy bit. Once you fry it, you can use a bigger cutter to put more filling in it, have bigger samboosik, entirely up to you. This is my desired size, but you then keep going. In your tray, lightly dust the tray with a light amount of flour. Lay everything, all them that you've made, put it straight into the freezer. You need to freeze it roughly 3 hours. Once you've frozen it for 3 hours, pull it out, throw it in a bag, depending on you know, the portion amount. If you want to put them in bags of 12, 20, whatever your desired amount is, bag it and freeze it. Do not defrost it. You're freezing it so it doesn't stick together. So 3 hours is sufficient. If your freezer doesn't freeze so quick, I'd leave it a lot longer. Most of the times I do this at night and I come in the morning, pull it, take it off the actual tray, and I just bag it the next morning. This is now ready for the freezer. You need to remember that you can fry on fresh. So if you want to fry it now, you can. You don't need to freeze it. The freezing part is if you don't want to use it now, or if you want to use it in a couple of hours. You don't want it to dry out before you fry. It's not a really nice crusty taste. So in order for it to still taste very fresh, I'd freeze it, or if you want to use it now, go ahead and you can fry.